This is really devastating. This should concern absolutely everybody because it's worse than you think, and I know you think it's really bad already. 4 times as many jobs were lost in 2020 due to COVID as during the financial crisis in 2009. Roughly 255 million full-time jobs, or 8.8% of all work hours around the world, vanished. This is quadruple the impact of the financial crisis over a decade ago. Quadruple. 4 times as bad. Now, again, to be clear, the numbers here are worldwide, which is important, okay? But respectively, it's a similar case respectively for each individual country. I'm sure some were impacted less because of better policy in response to it, but it's bad, man. It's really, really, really bad. And there needs to be a sense of urgency that responds to what's happening now like it's the Great Depression, because we are effectively in a new depression. I don't care that the stock market on paper is still doing well, because the stock market is not a representation of how your average American is doing, of how working people are doing. The stock market is more a representation of the wealthy and corporate profits. So to use that as the way you measure the success of an economy is beyond preposterous. It's the dumbest possible way you can measure the success of an economy. So, listen, I think the time has come when you look at 60% of the businesses that shut as a result of COVID are now permanently shut. 60%. When you look at the fact that 30% or more of the American people are not going to be able to pay their housing bill, whether it's mortgage or rent. They're not going to be able to pay. There was one report, 28 million Americans are on the brink of homelessness. The only thing protecting them is the temporary protections that were just extended under Biden, and Trump had them in place as well. Because we have a pandemic, they're saying, well, you can't really evict everybody. I mean, there are loopholes in some states, and people are being evicted, but there could be a tsunami of evictions coming. And that should terrify you. Because as soon as COVID is gone, then it's the economic crisis we face. We're barely keeping it together with duct tape and bubble gum. But as soon as you get rid of some of these protections at the end of COVID, it's a wrap, son. So, that rhymed. So, listen, I think the time is here to yet again start having a conversation about reviving FDR's Economic Bill of Rights, his second Bill of Rights that he proposed. I believe it was in 1944. Just so everybody knows, under that, he says you have a right to a job, you have a right to an adequate wage and a decent living, you have a right to a decent home, you have a right to medical care, you have economic protection during sickness, accident, old age, or unemployment, and you have a right to a good education. Basically, the idea is a job guarantee, that job is going to pay well, Medicare for all, free college, and a social safety net insurance system that always looks out for you in times of need. That was his second Bill of Rights. That was his Economic Bill of Rights. Add a New Deal. I mean, listen, you do a New Deal, and that's how you guarantee everybody the right to a job. But if we're not thinking big like this, you should fear what's coming in the future. Because again, now they're laying it out in crystal clear terms. We know the numbers. People have done the math, and they've looked at it. And we're talking about a situation which is 4 times worse than the subprime mortgage in the Great Recession. And that was an incredible crisis. It was a gigantic crisis. You know, I remember how the sky was falling at the time. I remember. And we're talking about something that's 4 times worse. Really terrifying, man. It's really, really, really bad. And we need strong action. We need the government to step up to the plate. And unfortunately, listen, it's very likely they won't do that. And I think one of the main reasons is they're bought off by special interests. You know, corporations own the politicians. They fund their campaigns, and the politicians help them out. So I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Representing Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, big pharma, for-profit health insurance companies. The list goes on and on. It's terrible, but I fear what's coming if we don't do bold, decisive action like this.